I've been using the Galaxy Z Fold 6 for 2 days, and here are 10 things you should know about it. First of all, it costs $100 more than the Galaxy Z Fold 5. Unfortunately, there's no budget variant this year, at least not yet, even though there were a lot of rumors that there might be. I don't think this phone justifies a $100 increase compared to last year. So if you're buying this phone, be prepared to spend at least $2,000 after taxes, accessories, and everything else. This is not a cheap phone by any means, but I guess if you really think about it, even though there is no budget variant, you can just buy the Galaxy Z Fold 5 and go on Amazon right now and get it for about half off. So if you really want a folding phone and you don't want to spend $2,000, maybe you want to spend $1,000, get a generation older, or if you don't mind refurbish and older generation phones, consider looking at those as well. I still think $2,000 is a crazy amount for a smartphone, even though the idea of it is pretty cool. Second thing you should know is the crease is still there, even though Samsung said it is improved. Me personally, when I first look at it, it looks exactly the same. Maybe it's a tiny improvement, 1%, 0.5%. Unless you're holding two phones side by side, you can still see the crease is there. I think the OnePlus Open does a better job with the crease. That one I can tell a noticeable difference. Unfortunately, crease is still there. It's ugly. Your eyes is gonna adjust as you're using the phone. But at first glance, you're showing it to your friends, saying you spent $2,000 on this phone. They're gonna be like, oh, hey, what's that? Why it look like that? That's gonna be my first question if I was an iPhone user. And unfortunately, you still have to defend it. And I still think it's ugly. I think the iPhone notch is ugly as well, but people's eyes adjust. So I do want to address the elephant in the room. The crease is still there. It's a $2,000 phone, but the design is still questionable. We're not at the point where we can be completely creaseless yet. So baby steps. And before jumping into the rest of the day, just want to give a quick shout out to my partner Mint Mobile. Currently, they offer 5G plan for as low as $15 a month. You get unlimited internet, texting, and calling. It is a limited time offer. You do have to purchase 3 months up front, but it is a great deal, so make sure to check it out. Link in the description below. The biggest improvement on this phone, I would argue, is the weight itself. When I use the Galaxy Z Fold 5 and any of the previous folding phone, I always thought they were super heavy. My biggest complaint is they always feel like a brick when I'm holding it. Luckily, Samsung made this phone about the same weight as the OnePlus Open. The OnePlus Open was my favorite folding phone of last year. Maybe even my favorite phone, just because of the fact that they got the weight right. I mean, it's still a little bit heavier than the Galaxy S24 Ultra, but you're getting the folding screen inside, so that might justify it. In the prior years, it was so heavy, it makes me not want to hold it. Just taking pictures is tiring, recording video is tiring. You don't want to carry around a brick in your all day, especially you're running, being active. You're scared it might fall out of your pocket. So Samsung did a great job of shaving off some weight on this phone, but I think there's still definitely room for improvement. They're basically playing catch up compared to the OnePlus Open. I still think there's room for them to innovate more, but they're just doing the bare minimum. The lighter weight is definitely greatly appreciated. Fourth thing you should know is the outer screen is just a tad bigger than last year. Not much of a difference, but I do appreciate having a slightly larger screen. All the previous generation has been too narrow, on top of the phone being heavy. It's not really comfortable to use. But now the screen's a little bit larger. Overall, it feels lighter, so it's just easier to use for one-handed. When I'm tilting the phone back and forth, it is more comfortable. When I had the Galaxy Z Fold 5, every time I reached the top of the screen and I had to tilt my finger up to touch the top, I feel like the phone might fall over just because all the weight is not evenly distributed and it's so heavy. But now, as being a lighter phone, it is much easier to manage and reach all the corners of the phone. So once again, lighter weight makes a huge difference on these large phones. Fifth thing you should know is this phone still get a little warm when gaming. I don't do a lot of heavy gaming like race cars or Genshin Impact or anything like that. I play Pokemon trading card game, and when I do, around the camera lens area, I do notice it getting a little warm. Not to the point that is concerning, or it doesn't feel like it's going to explode or it's hot or anything like that, but it's enough for me to notice when I'm grazing. So, I mean, not the end of the world, but heat is definitely not good for battery life in the long run. If you want good battery, you want a phone that does a good job of cooling, even though they have a new larger vapor chambers. Unfortunately, I still feel the heat when doing light gaming. Maybe this can be improved with software update down the line, but for now, there's still some struggle there. And speaking of battery life, This is probably why the battery life isn't too great on this phone. It still gives me a little bit of battery anxiety throughout the day. I don't feel confident that I'm going to last through the full day. I try using it from morning to night, even driving around, having it plugged in, Android Auto. In general, I think it will last about 16 hours or so on a full charge under light to moderate usage. I can tell that it's struggling towards the end of the day, and I don't get the sense that it's going to last a full 24 hours. So in general, if I use this phone light to moderate usage style, I'm going to lose about 5% an hour. So in theory, that's going to last me about 20 hours. But if I'm using it more intensively and playing music out the speaker and playing video games, then I can see it losing anywhere from 7 to 10% an hour. So that is where you kind of see it fall within the 16 hours of battery life in total. I don't like to do screen on time as a measurement because not everyone's on their screen all day long, so that's not a really accurate depiction of the phone. I just want to see if the phone actually truly lasts a full day. Unfortunately, this being a $2,000 phone, it does not last a full day. So battery is what it is. Galaxy S24 Ultra battery isn't that great either. So it definitely does leave a lot to be desired, especially me using the OnePlus 12R at $400 to $500. That phone will last me a full 36 hours. Absolutely incredible. OnePlus does a great job with the battery. Even the OnePlus Open has really good battery as well, but Samsung slacking there, buddy. Next thing I want you to know is the camera experience is still a little bit funky. So if you're getting a phone, you want to use this in docking mode and you want to preview yourself, you have to use the under display camera, turn your phone around. You can start recording that way. But then this is the absolute worst camera on this phone. It's so blurry, it's like using a webcam. So you're better off not using it. I recorded my OnePlus Watch 2 review using this camera and it came out absolutely terrible. But if you want to use the main camera, there's no preview screen. You can turn the phone around, you can record the main camera like I am right now on video portrait mode. I wish they had like an actual screen on the front, that way you can actually use the preview screen, but for now I'm just relying on the reflection of the phone. So who knows, I guess if you want, you can like buy an accessory mirror and slap it on top of it if you are vlogging, but I guess most people are not really vlogging. But still, if you want to use the main camera, you want to be able to frame it, there's still some work to do and it's not perfect. And it's just a funny experience with this phone. And yeah, camera experience still not ideal. Eighth thing you should know is the AI tricks are cool. I know Samsung been trying to sell that since the Galaxy S24, but none of it is really compelling enough for me to try. They got some new artwork tricks, maybe some new calculator tricks. I'm not really into drawing, and a lot of their features are cool, but it's not something that is life-changing or makes a big difference for me. Maybe it might for you, but for me, Google AI, Samsung AI, I can jump to many different phones and I don't really miss any of it. I am a fan of AI, but just the basic chat GPT, I can Google search, I can download the app, I can use that on any single phone. So that's pretty much the extent that I use AI. But all these little tricks, tips and tricks are cool. They're just not really that useful. Ninth thing you should know is for a $2,000 phone, this phone still has a lot of compromises. It doesn't have the best camera. That is still the Galaxy S24 Ultra in this lineup. And this phone only has a 3x zoom, which is equivalent to the S24, which you can get for $800. And one thing I did notice when taking pictures with this phone, there is a shutter lag. So if I'm taking a picture of my kid, I think I'm getting the greatest picture. I go back and look at it, he is looking away. But when I first snapped it, he was definitely smiling. So I know Samsung have had shutter lag issues in the past with their other phones, but I never really noticed it. This one, it happened to me a few times. And once again, $2,000 phone, this is absolutely unacceptable. Too many compromises. It is only IP48 compared to the IP68 on all of Samsung's flagship phones. So even though it costs a lot, you're paying for the novelty factor, the ability to open it up and use it as a tablet. Depending on how often you use it or not, it may or may not be worth it for you. But this phone still has a lot of compromises that is still making its way towards the flagship range, but not quite. Last thing you should know is the corner of the phone are squared off this year. The edges are kind of sharp. It does hurt a little bit. You kind of get used to it unless you use a case. Maybe you'll feel better, but just something that I noticed, that the edges hurt more. Sometimes I have it in my pocket and then I'm walking and I graze the phone. I feel a jab here and there. Alright guys, those are my initial impression and 10 things you should know about the Galaxy Z Fold 6. I'll continue testing this out further and let you know my thoughts on it, but overall, it feels exactly the same as the prior generation. There are no notable upgrades. The only thing is the weight itself. I would argue that's the most important part. I don't want to carry around a giant brick in my pocket, but if you don't mind paying $2,000 for a lighter brick, but it still suffers basically all the same issue that the Z Fold 5 has. The crease is so ugly, all the software experience is pretty much the same. Alright guys, let me know anything else you guys want me to cover. Remember to like and subscribe. These are just my initial impression after using it for 2 days. I'll do a full review when I finish using this phone. I appreciate the time as always, and see you guys in the next video.